And what if the very thing you seek, true inner freedom, requires you to first embrace loss? It sounds contradictory, doesn't it? But what if letting go of what you think you need is the only path to the liberation you truly long for? Many of us spend our lives building golden cages, calling them security. But the soul knows there is no expansion without emptying, and no awakening of consciousness without the courage to face the void. Today, we will explore the paradox of detachment, discovering why the unsettling feeling of loss is often the entry portal to our deepest spirituality. Allow yourself a pause. Look within. Perhaps you are going through a period of great transition, feeling the weight of something that needs to be left behind. It is natural for the process of letting go to be accompanied by pain and confusion. You are not alone in this feeling of disorientation. The path of self-knowledge demands a radical honesty, that of facing what we cling to out of fear and not out of love. The pain we feel when moving away from old structures is the birth pang of our authentic self. Master Eckhart Tolle reminds us that the main obstacle to our presence is the identification with form, with what we are or what we have. Loss forces us, by the grace of the now, to move from having to being. In this deep dive, we will unveil the mystery of surrender and how it leads us to our true power. The soul is not in a hurry. It has rhythm. Our comfort zones, even when limiting, provide a sense of security that we are programmed to protect. We become the guardians of our own prisons. We spend years wearing masks and carrying burdens that the soul can no longer bear, but the familiar comforts us. The paradox arises because true inner freedom often requires us to actively dismantle these familiar structures. The conditioned mind views the demolition of these walls as a threat, as a catastrophic loss. But what are we really losing? We are losing the limited version of ourselves. This intentional demolition feels like a loss because we are shedding a known reality, however restrictive it may be. Imagine a candle that must consume its own wax to sustain the flame. The wax that melts away is the necessary loss for the light to remain and illuminate. It takes courage to accept that what looks like a hole, a void, is actually the opening of a sacred space. This is not about carelessness, but about wisdom. You are not broken. You are transforming. And what if the security you seek is actually found in your capacity to flow, and not in your capacity to hold on? The great conflict is not in the object that departs, but in the illusion of control that dissolves. Our comfort zones are, in fact, contracts of silent imprisonment. With every detachment, we rescue a piece of our soul that was invested in maintaining a facade or a relationship that no longer vibrates with our truth. This pain of losing is the necessary friction for our spiritual awakening, the pain of the rub between what the ego wants to retain and what the being needs to expand. And the resistance to this pain of change is always linked to an even deeper belief, perhaps the most limiting of all, the fantasy that we have any control over the vastness of life. We cling to the perceived control over situations, relationships, and even our own identities, believing this grants us security. It is the ego's voice that screams, "If I don't hold on, everything will fall apart." This need for control is the opposite of presence. While we try to control the flow of life, we lose the opportunity to live what it truly offers us. We become rigid, like a tree that does not bend in the wind and therefore risks breaking in the storm. The wisdom of Taoism, through Lao Tzu, teaches the virtue of non-forcing, of Wu Wei. The pursuit of freedom requires the surrender of this illusion of control, recognizing the vastness beyond our immediate reach. The relinquishment, however, can feel like a profound loss of power. But, in reality, it is the opposite. It is the recognition that genuine agency lies not in manipulating the external, but in mastering the inner universe. Surrender is not weakness. It is the strength of one who trusts the natural rhythm of existence. Life is not a straight ladder. It is a river that meanders to teach us gentleness. Letting go is like opening your hands from an invisible knot that was binding your heart. Listening to the soul reveals to us that true strength lies in discerning what we can affect and what we should embrace. The philosopher Khalil Gibran, with his profound poetry, already taught us about the need to have our own spaces and to allow separate dancing, even in the deepest love. This is the invitation of maturity, to stop fighting against impermanence. It is not passivity, but an active acceptance, a central concept of Stoicism. It is the silent wisdom of knowing that the universe listens to you when you learn to listen to yourself. And when we finally open our hands to this vastness, the first and inevitable encounter is with what we fear most, a vast and frightening emptiness. The initial void, right after letting go of the familiar, can be disorienting and even terrifying. Without the old references, the mind feels lost in what seems to be an absence of meaning. This is the dreaded dark night of the soul, in miniature. It is a crucial stage where many give up, confusing temporary discomfort with a permanent state of deprivation. However, the wisdom of contemplative spirituality reveals to us that this void is not an absence. It is the womb of the invisible, the uterus of the sacred. It is the fertile void that awaits genuine self-discovery and new possibilities. For the poet Rumi, the longing for union with the divine requires the cup to be empty so that it can be filled. You don't need external fillers. You need inner silence. Navigating the void is practicing presence and quietude. It is sitting in the cave of introspection, embracing kindness towards the now. The light of consciousness cannot illuminate what is full of noise and old attachments. It only ignites in inner silence. This is the moment the seed is in the dark, the moment life is preparing an unprecedented blossoming. It is the 0 point of reconnection. It is in the void that we find the clarity to co-create a new inner reality with authority. It is from this empty and authentic space that true reconstruction becomes possible. If loss is demolition, freedom is architecture. True freedom consists of building a life aligned with your authentic self, and not merely reacting to external pressures or social scripts. This is the process of intentional self-reconstruction, where the deepest personal development takes place. This reconstruction is not a patchwork fix. It is a work of art that begins from the foundation of your spiritual truth. It is at this point that the initial loss reveals itself as a gift. It was merely the opening of space for something infinitely more rewarding and genuinely yours. Theosophy teaches the necessity of integration between the macrocosm and the microcosm, the as above, so below. External reconstruction is only sustained when it reflects the order and clarity of your inner world. You are using the noblest material that exists, your own consciousness. Your body listens to everything your soul whispers. Every new choice, every small act of kindness towards yourself and the now, is a brick in the sacred dwelling that is your being. What kind of home are you building in the temple of your chest? It is here that we move from reaction to ethical and contemplative action, honoring the silent wisdom that emerges. And finally, looking back, the perspective changes. What the mind classified as loss, the heart recognizes as an abundant harvest of the self. The initial feeling of loss eventually transforms into a deep appreciation for the new space, clarity, and peace. This is the alchemy of the soul. Stoics, like Seneca, already taught active acceptance and emotional lucidity as the path to serenity. What seemed like deprivation was merely the removal of a burden. Reflect on the specific examples. You gained mental space for contemplation, you gained time for listening to the soul, and you gained the authority to be who you truly are. You abandoned the heavy anchor of fear and received the wings of authenticity. The most significant personal growth arises from the courage to experience temporary discomfort. Rumi gifts us with the image. The wound is the place where the light enters. What you released was not your worth, but your imprisonment. This is the greatest of all gains, the reunion with your living soul. The meaning of life is not in what is accumulated, but in the lightness with which one walks. This emotional healing only manifests when we accept that pain is a teacher. True inner transformation is not about accumulating, but about simplifying. Life, in its silent wisdom, often uses loss as an invitation, like a master who gently removes the toy that was distracting us from the essential. Allow your breath to become a river that teaches effortless fluidity. Feel the air entering and leaving, and with each exhale, visualize a small fragment of the weight you no longer need to carry being carried away. Do not fight what is gone. Healing begins where you stop fighting what you feel. Just observe the new space that forms. That space is your reconnection with the self. And what if the feeling of emptiness that frightens you today is, in fact, your purest freedom screaming to be lived? May the wind of presence guide you. If something within you has calmed or awakened upon hearing these words, allow yourself to continue. Subscribe to the channel and activate notifications to walk with us on this road of fertile silence, discoveries, and reconnection. Leave your experience in the comments. Your sharing is also a seed of healing for other hearts. And if you are looking for a safe harbor to nurture this newly lit flame and find those who walk on the same frequency, our community is the sanctuary where fertile silence is shared and deepened. Remember, wholeness is the true strength, not the forced smile. Honoring your truth is the only way. And to continue expanding your sanctuary of clarity, we suggest the video in the card. May it be a gentle breath on your journey. Peace and light.